Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast, food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Today's sponsor is Amatus. Amatus Recovery Centers offers premier treatment for drug and alcohol addiction and co-occurring mental disorders in facilities across the country. To learn more about treatment programs, call 833-631-0525. Addiction is treatable and recovery is possible. This week's guest is a native Baltimorean, Beth Schiff from You Choose Creative, who has successfully combined her passion for food with her career as a casting director and talent executive in New York City to a lot of the well-known shows, Chopped from the Food Network, CBS's The Great American Baking Competition, Travel Channel's Man vs. Food reboot, and FYI's Love at First Bite. Here comes Beth. Hi. Hello, Beth.
Hi.
Nice to finally meet you, sort of after all these years. We've known each other on social media, but yet to be face to face. So this is great excuse. But what's on your plate today other than the food enthusiast?
I am just wrapped up one project that I was working on with T Brand Studios, which is the branded content arm of the New York Times. And they reached out to me actually to find some pandemic stories. And I posted this all over social media, but they were looking for, this isn't about food, but they were looking for people who have been cyber hacked, people who have had some financial issues online, people who are trying to register to vote online. Anyway, so I just wrapped that project up with them. And I'm working on a documentary series for Quibi, which I can't talk a lot about, but it's more notable celebrity bookings and story-driven content.
Well, I want to tell people, I mean, how did you get into this? You went to the University of Florida already with it in mind that you went into telecommunications, your BS in telecommunications production and direction. So what was your inspiration? You know, you didn't want to be in front of the camera. Obviously, you wanted to be behind. You're pretty enough to be in front of the camera, but what was the inspiration?
Thank you. I've always just been curious about how things, what happens behind the scenes. I was just always very curious, like, how do people appear on television? And how does it all get made? And who does all this? And what does everybody do behind the scenes? And so actually, I mean, it started actually in high school. I went to Pikesville High School, and my senior year, I would leave half a day. I had an internship, and I would go to I think it was WJZ, or I can't remember which of the news stations, but I would literally kind of go out with the reporters and sit at the assignment desks and sit in the editing rooms and just kind of understand how a story gets put together. So that's how it really started. And then I went to college, and then actually after college, I moved back to Baltimore. And like any good unemployed, young adult does, I volunteered my time. I interned at the film office. I was very curious about what's coming into Baltimore. What can I work on? What can I help out on? How can I get behind the scenes? And it was just a really great way for me to understand what's happening or what happens in production.
So is that where the casting bug bit? Didn't you do some casting for them?
Yeah, so the casting bug bit actually when a movie came through town way, way, way back in the early 90s into Baltimore. And I'll really date myself if I tell you this, but it was Major League 2 and we filmed at Camden Yards. And that's how I got into the casting game.
I remember that coming. Charlie Sheen was in that, wasn't he?
He was, yep.
Yeah. Looks like we have a slight delay, so between this.
Yeah.
I think most people know about Chop that are involved with food, have watched the show. And you started with them when the show started back in, what was it, '09?
Well, we
So I
started
think,
casting, we started production. Oh, sorry, I know there's a delay. It started casting, production, pre-production in 2008, and I believe premiered January 2009.
okay, they have up until you were with them until 2019. So what was that, 47 seasons, 600 shows?
Yep. Yeah. Over 600 shows.
Uh, Now, I mean, you did more than casting. I think you had a crew of 20 people working for you.
Well, Chopped is an incredible endeavor. I mean, it's an incredible show that continues on. And I'm super proud of it. But so casting department was huge because we had to find an incredible amount of people, chefs, cooks, food enthusiasts, in a short amount of time. So I sort of supervised. I was sort of like at a level of kind of like overseeing people. We were looking for cooks and chefs in various cities. We were looking for various specials like firefighters. We did grandmas, so all of this happened simultaneously for a time of like, I don't know, 2-3 months at a time. So it was a lot going on in a short period of time. We had to find a lot of people.
Um, what makes one person stand out from another? I
I
mean, you're
can't hear you
casting.
anymore.
I said, what
Mm-mm.
makes some person stand out? Let's see.
Yeah, unfortunately, I lost whatever audio I had. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I can hear it. Yes. I'll
Yes,
nod
you're
my
nodding
head.
your head. So how come I can't hear you anymore? I don't know.
I
No,
have
my
no
volume is
clue.
up.
Okay.
I'm not sure what to do because I can't hear you.
Um, talk about your job, your
Is there a way to
business.
go out and come back in? I
Well,
have
you can
my
try that.
earbud then.
Um, Jen, if you're watching, can you take her out and then I'll just talk about the upcoming show in the meantime? Okay. Well, while we're trying to get the audio fixed with Beth, let me tell you about next week's show. And let's see. All right, we're trying to fix things here. Technology, don't you love it? Next week, we're going to have Ron Furman on from Max's Tap House to launch Oktoberfest. And everybody knows about Max's here in Baltimore, but let me tell people a little bit more about it. Ron is, it's a legendary place, has more beers than you can think of. I think 100 and plus some beers on tap. And if anybody's going to launch Oktoberfest, it will be Max's Tap House. USA listed them as the top 10 best beer bars in the US. Can you hear me now, Jen? I mean, Beth?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you now. I don't know what happened, but I'm back. You're back.
Yay! We all get this worked out.
Uh,
I love technology. So
technology.
yeah, I was telling you that next week we're going to have Ron Furman of Max's Tap House, and I'm sure you know about them down in Fells Point. And we're going to kick off Oktoberfest. So we were talking about Chopped. We talked about overseeing and how, in a short period of time, how compressed the work was. Now, there were certain regular judges on the show. Was it up to you to go for the other celebrity judges? Like you had Martha Stewart for a while, Scott Cannon, Marcus Samuelson. Were you involved with that, or did the directors just go to them directly?
Yeah, I was responsible. Basically, I was responsible for anyone other than the recurring judges, anyone else that appeared on the show, whether they were cooking, competing, or judging. I was responsible for filling those slots.
Um, Any memorable moments that you can remember from working on the show?
Oh my God. So many. It's really hard to pinpoint any moments, any particular moments. There was one moment where a chef plated nothing. I think there was only one of those, if I can recall, but generally, we were really encouraging the chefs to like plate something, because if you don't plate anything, the judges can't taste, zero or nothing. So I think there was one instance where the chef just didn't get anything on the plates.
Okay. Well, I have a quote here, and it's funny because he just checked in. Chef Dave Thomas, here from Baltimore, formerly of Ida B's, winner of the Chopped Champions, said in reaction to announcing you on the show, "Beth cast me for Chopped. She is a true professional." And she just came in and says, "Just wanted to check in and say hey to Beth and Dara." And I don't know if you remember this,
Sweet.
but if I told you a long time ago, my sister's name is Beth, and you share the same birthday. So when I see
Oh,
Beth and
really?
Dara, I'm
That's funny.
constantly putting that together. Hi, Dave Thomas.
Hello,
Tom
Dave
is,
Thomas.
yeah, he and his wife are all, promoting the diaspora that is Black Lives and
Yep.
what's going on. So they've been doing a great job. Um, do you love to bake more than to cook? Or I think I remember you saying that you love to bake.
I do love to bake, so that's a good memory. I consider myself a better baker than cook. I really wish I had that ability to sort of like play Chopped and open the fridge and just be like, oh, I have this, this, and this, and let me put this together. And oh, it needs more of this or more rosemary or more garlic. I don't. I'm really more of a recipe follower. I've definitely gotten better because of Chopped and because of my culinary network. I've gotten a lot better at tweaking things or improvising, but baking is, it's like science, and I can follow a recipe. So I do a little bit of both, and honestly, since lockdown and quarantine happened, I've been cooking and baking or baking pretty much every day,
Well, I
all
see
day.
that you did a rainbow challah on your
Oh yeah,
Instagram.
for Pride Month. Yeah, for Pride Month.
Yeah, that was. I can't. Breads are a little bit torturous we both share a friend with
I
Elizabeth Faulkner,
Yeah.
and she laughs when I said frustrated baker because it's always a challenge. And I am the type that can open the refrigerator and go to the spices and throw it together. But they're
Yeah.
not here to
Yeah.
listen to me, they're here to listen to you. Um, so let me tell everybody, if they're just tuning in, we are here with Beth Schiff, and she is a casting director. How else would I put it? Um, and her website, she does casting for all kinds of shows, advertising, but was very much involved with casting for Chopped and other food shows. Her website, learn more about Beth, is You Choose Creative, and you can find her on social media at Casting Queen NY or Casting Queenie
I
with
know.
two.
I know. It's just funny because that name has followed me for so long. And it like when I, signed up for it, it was Casting Queen NY. And then I don't know, somewhere down the line, someone's like, Casting Queenie? And I was like, oh no, that's not what I meant. But I'd already had the name and the handle. So that's where I am.
Well, with the face of TV changing and all the streaming, because did you say Quibi? Was it Quibi that
Yeah. Yeah. We're working
you're
on a
work
project for Quibi. Yeah.
right? There's so many avenues and so much material. Has that boosted your business, or is it detracting from it? How do you feel the ever-changing media is affecting your business?
Well, I mean, look, COVID has affected the business immensely. I was working on a chef project when COVID hit. It was a new show. that, a major cable network was going to run the series. They were going to shoot in April or May, and that whole thing shut down, and has since been able to pick back up. So things that are, very isolated have been able to be done. I know that like the Food Network app with their, sort of live classes and live streaming have picked up, but people are doing it remotely. I have some friends that are, that do live classes. So it's just a really interesting, challenging time. I think for food TV and food content, it's endless. And that's not going away, whether it's on broadcast or streaming. I think you can name any streaming service and point to a multitude of food content, and a lot of it which I watch, or at least, try to take a taste of. But, I think it's COVID and the pandemic, which has significantly affected the industry. I mean, things are going back into production, but it's very slow. It's very careful. And, we'll see what happens. So, I think the good news was there was just enough that was already produced, enough in the can, so to speak, when COVID hit, that
Right.
people aren't noticing yet, a difference or a lack. But I think, people will start to notice, or they've already started to notice, a lot of things have been done as this is, like via, Zoom and digitally, people producing things in their homes or their own spaces,
Right. Before I forget, I wanted to come in with the second commercial, and then I'll be right back to you. Just smile, your beautiful face.
Okay.
Seek treatment for drug and alcohol addiction and co-occurring mental health disorders by calling Amatus Recovery Centers at 833-631-0525. I always like to ask a couple questions. We already asked, what you're casting now. Do you have an epic culinary fail that you'd like to share?
Oh my goodness, where do I start? So I've had a couple during quarantine, and you were talking about baking. So one of them pertains to baking, and going back to talking about our friend Elizabeth Faulkner, like I probably should have, checked in with her or someone. But we did these cakes. We did like these great Oreo cakes during quarantine, and it says butter or grease the pan, but then flour the pan, which we did, but the cake stuck to the pan, and I was so like disheartened and frustrated, when we turned them over and we couldn't get them out. And P.S. we got them out, but like we did a little bit of like, I guess you would say, played chopped, and we're like, okay, how do we cover this up? And we like sort of covered it up with frosting, but I can't figure out how to grease and flour the pan appropriately to release the baked good. So that was one. And the other one was I was trying to make like a gelato or an ice. And basically it was such a simple recipe. You add like frozen strawberries or frozen fruit to your food processor and add condensed milk. Well, we added a little bit too much condensed milk. It was so sweet. I mean, and I hate throwing things out. I will always try to fix things because there's so much food waste in the world, but this was unfixable. So that's just one of many.
Many. Who hasn't? I told this one very early on when I started doing the Food Enthusiast, being Jewish and going out on my own, and I had a guy who liked sausage in his spaghetti. I didn't know from sausage, so I picked up pickled sausage. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
Threw it out. Just so you don't feel alone in your
Yeah.
failed attempts. What's coming for you? What do you see your next 3 months, 4 months to be?
Interesting question. I'm out there right now, sort of, putting myself out there for other work, since work has and productions have slowed down. I'm definitely interested in more culinary projects. I am working on a documentary project, which I can't say too much about, but it has to do with the food system and regenerative agriculture, since that's sort of a passion of mine. Since I've gotten into food, and I've been in media, I've really tried to combine the two to work on projects that really highlight culinarians and farmers who are, producing food responsibly. So I'm hoping to work a little bit more and get this documentary out in the world. I'd love to work on more, food and media projects that, that highlight great stories. I'm all about sourcing talent, finding great stories. So I'm hoping to do more of that in the future.
Aren't you doing something with the Institute of Culinary Education?
I've had an ongoing relationship actually with the Institute of Culinary Education. They have what they call brand ambassadors, for, I guess, lack of a better term, in which they are working with chefs and bakers who can represent ICE and in a variety of ways. So I've been working with them, sort of introducing them to talent, sourcing talent, identifying talent who are good for different media opportunities in New York and Los Angeles.
Great, great. And the final question. What question didn't I ask you that I should have?
You didn't ask me. I was thinking of two different things, actually. One, you didn't ask me sort of where I eat or what I like to eat in Baltimore or what I'm watching. So do you mind if I answer both?
Go for it. That's what the question's there for.
Well, so, I mean, pandemic aside, because obviously, during the pandemic, I didn't really get to eat too much other than my own cooking in Baltimore. But
Right.
I'm a big fan of La Food Marquetta. I've worked with Chef John there, so I'm giving him a shout out. I really like the Corner Pantry. There's a ton of things to try. Another chef friend of mine, another chef John, is opening Fouzine down in Canton. So I'm wishing him the best of luck. So there's a lot of good food in Baltimore. I'm really excited about what's developed there. And the other thing, so you didn't ask me what I'm watching or if I watch television, which I do. So the Chef's Table just came out with like a new series with barbecue chefs. So I'm diving into that, which I think is just a beautiful series. And there's also a documentary out now on Netflix called Kiss the Ground, which is about the food system and regenerative agriculture. But on the non-food side, and the Baltimore related side, I actually am watching The Wire. I'm going through like all the seasons of The Wire. I can't believe I'd never seen the series fully. And
Really?
Yeah. And so I love it. I wish I could just spend all day like just watching the rest of the series, and just connects me to Baltimore too.
It was an amazing series, and one of those ones that Anthony Bourdain was very fixated with David Simon. And when he did the show on NOLA, he got involved with that. Well, Beth, thank you so much, everyone. This is Beth Schiff from You Choose Creative, who is a casting director. And there's other titles to it. I never know. How would you describe
I really, I would say other than a casting director, really a talent professional, a talent strategist.
Okay, so you can find her at www.youchoosecreative or her social media, Casting Queen NY, or think of Casting Queenie. And check her out. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and we got past the technical difficulties. It's a pleasure again to finally chat with you one-on-one after all these years.
Agreed.
And great. Thanks again, and Happy New Year. Okay, everyone, that sort of wraps it up for this week. We spoke earlier that Ron Furman of Max's Tap House will be on next week to kick off Oktoberfest. If you want to see the show, it is always up on the Facebook J Moore Living page or the jmoreliving.com page. You can reach me via email at food@jmoreliving.com. And my social media is at Dara Cooks or Dining Dish. You can find that blog as well. So for everyone, stay safe, wear your mask. And for those that are celebrating, Have an easy fast. May your plates always remain full, and I'll see you next week.